So welcome again. I am Becky Facina with Alliance Health. I am their community education specialist in Johnston County, and I work out of the Smithfield office. Today we'll be discussing bullying prevention and response training. A little bit about Alliance Health for those of you that have just joined us. We are the LME MCO for Public Behavioral Health Care in Durham, Wake, Cumberland, and Johnston counties. We serve approximately 471,000 Medicaid eligible and uninsured individuals among a total population of about 1.7 million people. We manage a network of providers to ensure quality care is received, as well as help individuals access care and navigate systems. We have about 2,000 providers under our umbrella. I want to highlight that square there. It says Hope for NC with the little house in the middle. That's the Hope for NC helpline, 1-855-587-FIND, FIND 3463. It connects North Carolinians to additional mental health and resilience supports to help them cope and build resilience during times of crisis. It's available to everyone in North Carolina's 100 counties during the COVID-19 crisis. Hope for NC includes a crisis counseling program tailored for COVID-19, which will provide immediate crisis counseling services to individuals affected by the ongoing COVID-19 public health crisis. This initiative is in partnership with all 7 of the state's LME MCOs and Real Crisis Intervention Incorporated out of Greenville, North Carolina. Hope for NC is available 24 hours per day, 7 days a week to speak to a live person. So please share that far and wide and have our community members utilize that. So what is bullying? Bullying is just this definition here. It's any unwanted aggressive behavior or behaviors by another youth or group of youths that involves an observed or perceived power imbalance and is repeated multiple times or is highly likely to be repeated. Bullying may inflict harm or distress on the targeted youth, including physical, psychological, social, or educational harm. Bullying is a form of youth violence, and it is an adverse childhood experience. It's an ACE. And I believe in previous presentations and trainings, we've discussed ACEs, and even further, we will look at that further down the road when we talk about resilience. And we view the film that focuses on resilience. We'll really talk about adverse childhood experiences. So we'll kind of dig a little bit deeper into this definition. So these dark highlighted phrases here. So we're going to dig a little bit deeper and really look at the definition and the meaning behind these phrases. So is the behavior unwanted aggression, or is it rough play, right? So you've got two little people, 2 youths, is it unwanted aggression, or are they just roughhousing? Are they just playing around? Is it just in jest, or has it gotten a little out of control? So unwanted, in quotation marks, means that the targeted youth wants the aggressive behaviors to stop. When something is unwanted, you want those behaviors to stop. And then, is it rough play? Those cues for adults. Know that whether or not it's the relationship between the children, know the cues of their expressions and their body language and the atmosphere of what's happening and where it's taking place. 2 children may enjoy taunting each other in a playful manner, but this should not be considered bullying, right? So there's a difference between kind of the little bit of a teasing, then where teasing kind of crosses the line and it's then unwanted. I just wanted to pull the chat up here. It's a form of violence, not just youth violence. Correct. Adults also experience bullying. Primarily, it starts in youth and continues throughout adulthood, whether it be the aggressor or the victim, but absolutely an adult can experience bullying just the same. In a workplace environment, in a home environment, in a familial environment, absolutely. And so we talk about repeated behavior, right? So the child must either experience multiple incidents of aggression, or there's a strong concern that a single aggressive behavior has a high likelihood of being followed by more incidents of aggression. So we can dig deeper into this, and I'll give you the links to a lot of where this material and research is coming from. Stopbullying.gov is a great resource, as well as the CDC has a lot of great and powerful information regarding bullying. So again, digging deeper into that definition. What's a power imbalance? What does that look like? Well, it can be a variety of things. So looking at your physical characteristics, it could be a power imbalance with age, with size, with physical strength. It could be popularity or association with peers, background or demographic characteristics, abilities and skills, maybe academically or physically again, access to money, being outnumbered, a presence of weapons, so that physical power imbalance, essentially. So those components make up that definition of bullying. Well, there are different modes and types of bullying, right? Again, digging a little bit deeper. We have direct bullying and indirect bullying. So the modes of bullying, direct bullying, are those aggressive behaviors that occur in the presence of the targeted youth. Again, we're focusing on youth, but we do know that the dynamics can happen as an adult. Direct bullying can look like face-to-face interactions, so those pushing, that hitting. It could be verbal communications, taunting, passing notes, right? We don't even pass notes anymore. It's probably text messages now, so I just aged myself. And then indirect bullying, those aggressive behaviors that aren't necessarily directly communicated to the youth. Spreading rumors, right? Social media would be another indirect bullying. Telling people to exclude that child or that youth from recess or from the lunch table. And when you have your mode, then you look at the type, the physical, the verbal, or the relational. Relational, really, we take a kind of big focus on that these days because we are really isolated right now. We're working in silos. Schools are just starting to return depending upon where you're located. And so looking at those social isolations, spreading rumors, posting embarrassing images online, all of those things is a type of bullying. And you've got your verbal and then again, your physical. Oftentimes we immediately think about the physical and the verbal, and we forget about those relational types of bullying. And so digging deeper, again, stopbullying.gov is a great tool and resource, and I'm going to show you some things that I dug up off of their website later on. But they had some findings. One is that many children are involved in bullying, and here's the research on that. 22% of students aged 12 to 18 were bullied at school during the 12-13 school year. And again, this came out in 2015, so they released it in 2015, but the data that they were using was from 2013. I really wonder what that might look like right now. If we pulled that data from, let's say, 18-19, what it might look like right now currently. And then 20% of high school students were bullied on school property, at least once in the past 12 months. What are your thoughts about the numbers today? If we pulled this data today, what are your thoughts or insights? What do you think those numbers would look like? Would they increase, about the same, decrease? And I don't have the answer. I just kind of wanted to poll you to see what your thoughts were on this. Much larger, Ingrid. Yeah, potentially. That was kind of my first gut instinct. I think they would have increased dramatically. Yeah, Catherine. Much higher, Janet. I also think, when we look at 20% of high school students were bullied on school property, I also continue to think of, at least here in Johnston County, we are busting at the seams. And so our schools, when we were all in session and we were all attending schools, are overpopulated. And so we'll look at bullying prevention strategies, and one of them is really making sure that there are adults that can keep students and youth safe in place. And so when we have higher numbers of students in school, we know that our adults and our caregivers are stretched thin, and things tend to happen when we don't have enough eyes on our young people. And so again, we know how many, right? We know how many, but how are they being bullied? So when we look at those forms of bullying, and again, this was from 2015, they pulled the data, they published the study in 2015, and I'm sure the data was pulled slightly earlier than that. And so when we look at forms of bullying, 14% were made fun of, 6% were pushed, shoved, tripped, or spit on, to be spit on. I don't know if any of you have been engaged and have had the unfortunate experience of being spit on, but it is one of the most worst forms of violence or of retribution or retaliation that one can do. Again, I worked in a setting for students with severe emotional and behavioral disabilities, and I've had that unpleasant experience happen to me. 4% threatened with harm, 2% forced to do things that they didn't want to do, 2% had property destroyed, and then 7% had been cyber bullied anywhere. And so that's really interesting for me. They use the cautionary word anywhere because cyberbullying doesn't have to just take place at school. And I think we all know that now. And I would guesstimate that that number has exponentially exploded. That 7% is much, much higher now. And so finding number 2, there are similarities and differences among boys and girls and their experiences with bullying. We know boys and girls have different experiences among their lifespan to begin with, whether in school, in social settings, or at home within their families. But they also have different experiences with bullying. So boys and girls experience of being bullied and bullying others, right? Because you can be bullied, but you can be the person that is doing the bullying. So boys and girls experience relatively similar rates of bullying. Boys are more likely to bully others. Boys are more likely to bully others by 1.7 times. And boys are more likely to bully and also to be bullied. So they're more likely to bully, but they're also more likely to experience the combination of both at 2.5 times that rate. So the National Crime Victimization Survey, the NCVS, said that girls were more likely to be bullied through rumor spreading, name calling, exclusion, and cyberbullying, whereas boys were more likely to be bullied through physical bullying. Any thoughts about that? Why might that be? Jumped all over the place. Why might that be? Why might be that girls are more likely to be bullied through rumors and that type of victimization, whereas boys be victimized through that physical bullying? Well, we know that young women, girls, use less lethal ways. They're less violent. They also, when we look at further down the road, when we look at suicide attempts, women and girls and young ladies are much more likely to take make less lethal attempts than young men. I had somebody just pop up here in the chat. Right, image, less physical, absolutely. And so the third finding was children's experiences with bullying vary with age. Here are the age trends in the frequency of being bullied. Again, this was from the National Crime Victimization Study. So this is the percent bullied in 2012, 2013 school year, right? So children are most likely to be bullied in elementary grades. This is what this finding found, or this study found. The likelihood decreases through middle school and high school. Again, let's quantify this. This is the school year for 2012, 2013. I imagine, again, I don't know, I don't have the research. I tried to pull it up. They didn't have anything more recent than this. I imagine that those numbers are starting to go to increase when we look at middle school and high school because of the cyberbullying. That is just my hunch that it may still trend downward, but I think those numbers to begin with, that baseline is significantly higher, if that makes sense. So finding number 4, there are multiple risk factors and protective factors for bullying. This is really important information because we talk about, again, when we talk about resilience, we talk about adverse childhood experiences, we know that there are protective factors that a young person can have in their life that will, again, protect them from the negative outcomes that an adverse child experience may have on them. And so again, same thing for bullying. If our young people have some of these protective factors built up in them, the likelihood of them having long-term negative effects from the bullying is more likely. So let's look at those risk factors. There I am in the middle, I'm the individual. And so I have family risk factors, peer risk factors, community risk factors, and school risk factors that all interplay with what is going on with me. So here are some individual factors that may be related to involvement in bullying. So we look at the individual temperament of the child, right? Each kid, each youth, each child is different. So we look at their temperament. We look at alcohol and drug use. We look at social isolation, presence of a disability, sexual orientation, and again, we'll talk about these a little bit deeper, but these are just examples of individual factors that could be related to involvement in bullying. And so then let's look at the family, right? That's one of the other circles. Look at family. Parental warmth and engagement. Is there parental warmth and engagement or lack thereof? The parental use of drugs or alcohol. Is there domestic violence happening in the home? Is your parent in jail? Again, when we think about that larger picture of adverse childhood experiences, a lot of these are checking those boxes. And then school. What is the school climate like? Is there a sense of belonging to the school? Do students feel like they're empowered at school? Do they feel like they belong at school? Is there a degree of respect or fair treatment in the building? I alluded to good adult supervision. If our schools are overrun and they're overpopulated, there is not enough good adult supervision. And then the awareness and responsiveness of staff, which does relate, and there's a factor of that with good adult supervision. But responsiveness, does administration take bullying seriously? Am I called to respond as a teacher? Community factors. Is my neighborhood safe? Is where I'm living safe? And then we talk about connection a lot when we talk about resilience and we talk about adverse childhood experiences and building those protective factors. Connections to adults in neighborhoods. Is there an adult in the neighborhood, whether it is my mom or someone else or a caretaker or a community member or someone at the church? Is there connection to positive adults in the neighborhood? And so we look at those protective factors, right? So the individual and family factors, secure, caring, and self-confident children, supportive parenting, consistent and affectionate parenting, peer and school factors. Are those close, positive friendships? Are people engaged and responsive? Is the school inclusive and nurturing and safe? Those are our protective factors. We talked about those positive adult-child connections and safe neighborhoods. And so what they found in finding number 5 is that although any child may be targeted, some are at particular risk of being bullied. And we'll look at what some of those things might be. And you can, again, extrapolate this. We're focused on bullying at the youth and child level, but when we look at these particular characteristics and these particular risks of being bullied, you can really look at how this could cross, your lifespan. So those children and youth and even adults, right, that have learning disabilities, that may possibly have ADHD. We talked about autism spectrum disorder in our last presentation. They're at particularly high risk for being bullied. Are they overweight or underweight? Lesbian, gay, bisexual? If they don't conform to gender stereotypes? If you speak another language at home, oftentimes you're at higher risk at being bullied. However, the caveat down below is that even if a child has these risk factors, it does not necessarily mean they will be bullied. And so in finding number 6, we know that bullying can affect the health, mental health, and academic well-being of children who are targeted. And again, we can extrapolate that to adults that are being targeted, right? So being bullied is associated with, and focus on being bullied, because we'll look at being the person that bullies in just a few more slides. But being bullied is associated with later internalizing problems. And so that looks like depression. It could be self-harm. It could be suicidal thoughts and attempts. Those psychosomatic problems, headaches, stomach ache, poor appetite. I may not want to go to school because my stomach hurts. That's a psychosomatic problem that's associated with being bullied. Academic problems, and then externalizing that behavior. I'm being bullied, so I'm going to act out as well. Here are some biological mechanisms that are associated with bullying. So genetics research, neuroimaging studies, and others of the body's stress response. So we have a physiological response to being bullied. It reveals that there's harmful biological changes associated with bullying. And again, I'll reiterate that it goes back to toxic stress, right? So an adverse childhood experience can cause that toxic stress. And studies have shown that toxic stress reveals harmful biological changes within the body. So recognizing those invisible scars that bullying can leave is an important step in promoting well-being in youth. And finding number 7, this is children who bully. We've been looking at the children that are being bullied, and now the children that are doing the bullying are more likely than others to be engaged in other antisocial behavior. Children and youth who bully others are more likely than their peers to exhibit antisocial delinquent behaviors, like I just stated. They may dislike school and drop out of school more and more often. They are more likely to drink alcohol and smoke cigarettes. We know oftentimes alcohol and cigarettes is the gateway to other drugs. They're more likely to carry a weapon, to think about and attempt suicide, and come from homes with intimate partner violence. Bullying others is related to later criminal and antisocial behavior. Later sexual harassment perpetration as well as later sexual harassment perpetration among middle school students. So we know that there's negative outcomes for not only those that are being bullied, but also for those who do the bullying. And finding number 8 was that many children do not report bullying experiences to adults. And I want to open this up for the chat. Why don't you think young people don't report it? Why don't they report it? They're ashamed, they're embarrassed. Absolutely. Oftentimes they're scared of retaliation, right? There's threatening that's been involved, right? They don't want to appear as weak. They don't want to be labeled as the tattler, right? Or the snitch. So there's a true fear why young people do not report bullying. And here's the research. 50 to 70% of children and youth do not tell school personnel. However, they're a bit more likely to tell parents. And this varies by age and gender. Older youth and boys are most reluctant to report bullying. And that's really and truly culture related. I mean, we raise, whether right, wrong, or indifferent, we oftentimes raise our young men to be stalwarts, to be tough, right? To have this tough facade and physique, and it's not in their nature to tell. It's not in their nature, right? It's a sign of weakness. Yes, absolutely. Or that's what our culture has taught us, that it's a sign of weakness, right? And I really liked that, although bullying should be reported immediately, and we really want to teach our youth to reach out to that safe person in the school setting to be able to get the help immediately. I found a little bit of comfort in knowing that young people are more likely to come home and tell parents. I think I've told you all, I have a 4-year-old, a 5-year-old, and a 7-year-old. And oftentimes, I'm fortunate we have not experienced this in our elementary school setting yet, but oftentimes when my 7-year-old feels slighted or feels a certain way, or maybe upset about something, or something may have happened in the school setting, she doesn't go to her teacher oftentimes, but she will come home and tell me. And so having those conversations with your children, or those that you take care of that are in your home, having those conversations to saying, seek out that one safe person in the school building, seek out that teaching assistant or social worker or school counselor or teacher or assistant principal, and let them know, be able to speak up. It's really important that it's addressed immediately or as quickly as possible. There's negative messages, right? We talked about that, tattling and snitching, concern about retaliation. We talked about Talmadge touched on gender stereotypes. And then this one, lack of confidence in the adult's actions. I've heard time and time again that young people say, if I say something, nothing's going to happen. It's not like they're going to do anything. And so oftentimes that belief of it's not going to make a difference if I speak up, so they don't say anything. And it's very sad. So finding number 9, many children and youth are concerned about bullying. Most children and youth have negative feelings about bullying, and they feel sympathy for bullied peers. And this statistic's interesting to me. 90% of elementary students said they felt sorry for students who are bullied. Sympathy is somewhat greater among younger children and in girls, but oftentimes it doesn't translate into action. And so those are the conversations that we need to be having with our young people. When bystanders try to help a bullied child, they are often effective in stopping it. And I'll read that again. When they stand up to a bullied child, when a bystander, not when the victim is being bullied, but when a bystander stands up and tries to help, they are often effective in stopping it. And I'm going to show you a powerful video, hopefully at the end of this, that will show you kind of, instead of being a bystander, we want students to be upstanders. And it's a cool new verbiage and term that stopbullying.gov and the CDC are trying to get out there. Shine the light on the monster. Absolutely. Yes, indeed. And so all states have anti-bullying laws. They do differ and vary from state to state. And so I did put a link down here when you all get the slides if you want to dig deeper into North Carolina's laws. Many of you may already know them, working in the Department of Public Safety, but they're there and they do vary from state to state. And I'll also say not only state to state, but policies and procedures in the student code book differ from school district to school district. And so that's important information for us to remember as well. And so what do we do? How do we know it's here. We know it's not going to go away. I hate to say it. I can remember, I'm 41 years old and I can remember issues with bullying in school. I don't remember it to this degree. We didn't have social media. We didn't have cell phones and text messaging, and we didn't go home worried what was going to be posted about us on Facebook or Snapchat or Twitter. But I can remember those kids who were labeled as bullies. And I can remember those young people and those students that were oftentimes the victim of bullying. So how do we go about preventing it? And so it really requires changes in social climates of schools and organizations. It really has to start at school and at home, and we'll talk about home as well. Students need to feel connected to schools. They know that they're being cared about. They know that they can support one another. Changing those social norms around bullying, and then increasing adult supervision. And so we want schools, we want teachers to seek out support. Again, I keep praising, and we'll get to the resources at the end of this, but stopbullying.gov has just an amazing wealth of information, a continued education training course there for school leaders and teachers. You can get a CEU credit for taking the training. There's a youth empowerment training program and toolkit that's online. They've got a wealth of information there. And so early and enthusiastic support is critical from leaders of schools and youth programs. So taking a stand, commitment from a majority of the youth serving adults. And I think we had someone mention in the chat, there's only so much a teacher can do if they don't have parent support at home. Absolutely. And adults must be willing to address the bullying wherever it happens. That's huge. Adults must be willing to address bullying wherever it happens, if bullying prevention strategies are to be fully implemented and to work. And I will say this, it has to start at home. And so whomever those caregivers are at home, whether it's mom or dad or auntie or grandma or granddad or brother or sister or whomever it is, we are the role models. And so as an adult, if we're using that demeaning language, if we're talking down about those individuals that have disability, if we are using deprecating language, our young people, they're sponges for that. If mom and dad do it, it's okay. So then I can go and I can go tease Johnny, who has ADHD or has this or has that or has an academic disability. I can do that because I've seen it and I've learned it from home. And so it's got to start at home. Provide training, we talked about this, provide training. Adults must be able to understand the nature of bullying, right? So the modes, the types, its effects, what happens to those that are being bullied and what happens to those that bully down the road, how to prevent bullying, and appropriate responses if bullying is known or suspected. I do this training, I have done this training pre-COVID to several of our local elementary schools at back to school parent night and had a great turnout. And so again, part of it is understanding and learning, right? You can't act on what you don't know about. And so if I don't know what bullying looks like, if I don't know the laws and the procedures and the policies within the school and with our school district and within our state, it's very hard to continue to move forward and act on things when we just don't have that information. So set policies and rules. Great segue into the next slide. Set policies and rules around bullying and about bullying. As part of these policies, we need to think about establishing and communicating clear rules, behavior expectations if bullying is witnessed. So if you are a witness to bullying, what are you expected to do, right? Our elementary students should know that. Apply developmentally appropriate and proportional consequences for bullying others. And so respond consistently and appropriately. And I think that is part of the challenge with young people speaking up for themselves, or even a bystander speaking up. Oftentimes I have heard in response to bullying situations and experiences that the response is not consistently and appropriately applied. So what should you do? You should separate the children. You should make sure everyone is safe, number one. Meet any immediate medical or mental health needs. That means maybe bringing in the school social worker or the school counselor. Stay calm, including the bystanders. Reassure them that reassure the children that are involved, including the bystanders. And then model respectful behavior when you intervene. You are the role model in that situation. And what we don't want to do is this. We don't want to ignore it. We don't want to immediately try to sort out the facts, especially in a setting where there is a lot of bystanders. We don't want to force other children to say publicly what they saw, right? Again, that fear of retaliation. We don't want to question the children involved in front of other children. We don't want to talk to the children involved together, only separately. There are always two sides to the story, but we really want to be able to create a safe place for both students to speak, or if there's several students, for all students to speak individually. And when the time is right, make the children involved apologize or patch up relationships on the spot, if it's possible. And again, there's a lot of great information if you want to dig deeper on how you do that and what that looks like on some of those websites that I'm going to provide to you. Follow-up responses are often needed with involved students and parents, so make sure you're calling those parents. Provide protection plans and support to children who are bullied. Plan intervention strategies for children who bully and supporters of bullying to learn alternative behaviors. Adopt a trauma-informed approach. Recognize that children who have been bullied may have experienced trauma and need special care to address this trauma and avoid practices that may re-traumatize them. Again, bullying is considered an adverse childhood experience. There is trauma around being bullied. Consider referrals to mental health professionals within or outside of school settings when needed. And again, you can find some more guidance and support on stopbullying.gov. So what else can we do? We can spend time talking with children and youth about it. I take the time to talk to my children. Not everybody has the ability or the capability or the wherewithal to do it, but there are resources out there to assist you in having those conversations. There are great videos out there that are tailored for elementary schoolers, for middle schoolers, for high schoolers. There are videos out there that are tailored for the victims of bullying. There's videos out there that are tailored for those bystanders and how to be an upstander versus a bystander. Talk about bullying and how to prevent it. Hold those class meetings. Incorporate lessons about bullying and positive behaviors and social emotional impacts into your school's curriculum. And so I wanted to show you this video because I thought it was really good. It came out in 2017. And I really wanted to share this with you because I thought it was done really well. It's only a few minutes long. So I hope, let me do one thing here. I just realized something. I need to, sorry guys. I hope you can hear this. Please let me know if you can't hear it. I'm gonna do it this way. Oops, you can't hear it. Can you hear that? Charlotte says no sound. Okay, hang on. Let me try something real quick. There it is. I didn't hit that. Let's try it one more time. Let me know if you can.
Say cheese. That was say cheese. Oh my god. Oh my
god. Amanda, stop. She's done nothing to you. Get out of here. Go. I'm sorry. Thank you.
I just thought that was really powerful. In fact, the first time that I watched it, I'm a little bit of a softie, I think, when it comes to it, but I teared up. It was just so powerful. And for me to think, and I was a school administrator once, and I was a teacher in a high school, and to think that I may have missed this, or to think that this could be my daughter one day. It was just very powerful. So I just wanted to share this all with you. And I love the message of being someone's hero, that we can really tell our young people that they can be someone's hero if they stand up and they speak out. And so final thoughts as we wrap this up. Bullying prevention needs to be a coordinated effort. And I would say coordinated across a lot of different systems. And so when we look at home, we look at school, if our young people are involved in the juvenile justice system. So I know you all out there are employees and work for those agencies. It should be a coordinated effort across systems. Conversations should start early and continue through a child's school-age years. We know that bullying has long-term effects, again, for the bully as well as the victim. And I urge you to seek out some of these resources. Again, there is a wealth of information for parents, for teens, for students, for teachers, for other agencies there at stopbullying.gov, as well as at samhsa.gov. That's Substance and Mental Health Services Administration. And that's another governmental agency. Really great information there. I also like to tell people when I have the opportunity, SAMHSA has a wealth of flyers and pamphlets and handouts and things of that nature that that are print material. And if you reach out to them and request them, and let them know what you do in your agency, that you work at Department of Public Safety. I let them know that I'm a mental health educator at Alliance Health. They will send you many of those for free. The suicide hotline little pocket guide is one that I hand out quite frequently, and they'll provide them to you for free. So that's always good information to have. And lastly, questions, comments for me. I hope you all learned something today. I know oftentimes it's hard in these virtual experiences to have that engagement and that interaction. One day I will be back in front of you all, hopefully. And I know it's a lot of listening to my voice, but I try and try to keep it engaging. I hope you were able to learn something today. Please feel free to reach out to me if you have questions. If you leave and walk away and you say, I should have asked her this, or what's the research around this, I'm happy to provide that to you. And so again, feel free to reach out. My information is there. I will get a participant list and get this emailed out to you, the presentation, as well as your certificate of participation. So again, thank you again for being here. Happy Tuesday. Usually I see you, I think, on Thursdays, but it's Tuesday. Happy Tuesday, and enjoy the rest of your week. I am going to stop presenting now, and I will answer some of those private chats right now. Thank you again.